Welcome, kind souls, to a journey into the shadows of the human psyche. Today we're diving deep into the wisdom of Carl Jung, a man who understood that even the gentlest hearts must face the darkness to grow. This is Carl Jung's Dark Advice for Kind Souls, a one-hour exploration of his teachings that challenge us to embrace the uncomfortable, confront our inner demons, and find balance in a world that often takes advantage of our kindness. If you're someone who gives too much, feels deeply, or struggles to say no, this video is for you. Grab a notebook, settle in, and let's begin. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist and founder of analytical psychology, believed that every human being carries a shadow, a hidden part of ourselves filled with repressed desires, fears, and instincts. For kind souls, this shadow can be especially hard to face. You're the ones who light up rooms, who sacrifice for others, who see the good in everyone. But Jung warned that ignoring your shadow doesn't make you virtuous, it makes you vulnerable. His advice? Stop running from the darkness. Lean into it. Why? Because your kindness, unchecked, can become your weakness. Let's break this down. Jung's concept of the shadow is central to his philosophy. The shadow isn't evil, it's just the parts of you that you don't want to acknowledge. For kind souls, this might be your anger, your selfishness, or your need for control. You push these feelings down because they don't align with your identity as a good person. But Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Let me tell you a story. A client of mine, let's call her Sarah, was the kindest person you'd ever meet. She'd give her last dollar to a stranger, but she was constantly drained, resentful, and stuck in toxic relationships. Why? Because she refused to acknowledge her shadow, her need to set boundaries, to say no, to prioritize herself. Jung's advice to Sarah would be, face the part of you that feels selfish for wanting to protect your energy. That's not selfishness, it's survival. Let's talk about Jung's first piece of dark advice. Embrace your inner darkness. This doesn't mean becoming cruel or cynical. It means recognizing that you're human. You have desires, limits, and yes, even anger. Kind souls often feel guilty for these emotions, but Jung saw them as essential. In his book, Psychological Types, he wrote, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. For you, this might mean admitting that you resent always being the giver, or that you're secretly jealous when others succeed. These feelings aren't wrong, they're signals. They're your psyche begging you to pay attention. So how do you start? Journaling is a great tool. Write down a moment when you felt taken advantage of. What did you really want to say or do? Don't judge it, just observe. Next up, set boundaries without guilt. Jung believed that individuation, the process of becoming your true self, requires standing up for your needs. Kind souls often struggle with this. You say yes to everything because you don't want to disappoint anyone. But Jung would argue that this isn't kindness, it's self-betrayal. In his work on archetypes, he described the martyr archetype, someone who sacrifices themselves for others, but loses their identity in the process. Sound familiar? Here's a practical tip. Practice saying no in low-stakes situations. Tell a friend you can't meet for coffee because you need rest. It's uncomfortable, but it's a step toward honoring your shadow, the part of you that craves self-respect. Jung's third piece of advice is, balance your light and dark. The yin-yang symbol is a perfect metaphor for Jung's philosophy. Your kindness is your light, but it's only powerful when balanced with your dark, your strength, your assertiveness, your ability to protect yourself. In the archetypes and the collective unconscious, Jung wrote, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. For kind souls, this means integrating your shadow into your identity. You're not just the helper or the peacemaker, you're also the warrior, the protector, the one who says enough is enough. Try this. Next time someone crosses a line, pause and ask, what would my shadow do? Maybe it's speaking up or walking away. Whatever it is, trust it. Let's move to Jung's fourth lesson, confront your projections. Jung believed that we project our shadow onto others. For kind souls, this often shows up as seeing everyone else as good while ignoring their flaws. You might excuse toxic behavior because you don't want to judge. But Jung would say, you're not seeing the person. You're seeing your own repressed shadow. For example, if you're constantly forgiving someone who disrespects you, you might be projecting your own unacknowledged need for respect onto them. This is tough, but try this exercise and think of someone who frustrates you. Write down what bothers you about them, and then ask, how does this trait live in me? It's a game changer. Jung's fifth piece of advice, accept the world's darkness. Kind souls often want to fix everything, poverty, conflict, suffering, but Jung believed that the world, like the psyche, has its own shadow. In Modern Man in Search of a Soul, he wrote, man is, on the whole, less good than he imagines himself or wants to be. This isn't cynicism, it's realism. You can't save everyone, and trying to will burn you out. Instead, focus on what you can control, your own growth, your own balance. This doesn't mean giving up on kindness, it means being strategic, help where you can, but don't let the world's chaos drown you. Sixth, use active imagination to meet your shadow. Jung developed a technique called active imagination where you dialogue with parts of your psyche. For kind souls, this is a powerful way to connect with your shadow. Here's how it works. Find a quiet space, close your eyes, and imagine meeting a figure who represents your shadow. Maybe it's a stern warrior or a cunning trickster. Ask them, what do you want me to know? Write down what comes up. This isn't woo-woo. It's a way to access your unconscious. I tried this once and met a version of myself who was fiercely protective. She told me to stop apologizing for existing. It was a wake-up call. Jung's seventh lesson, pursue individuation, not perfection. Kind souls often chase an idealized version of themselves, always patient, always selfless. But Jung's goal was individuation, the process of integrating all parts of yourself, light and dark. In Memories, Dreams, Reflections, he wrote, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. This is liberating. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be whole. Start small. The next time you feel guilty for putting yourself first, remind yourself that wholeness requires balance, not sacrifice. Eighth, beware of the collective shadow. Jung warned that societies have shadows too. Greed, aggression, division. Kind souls can get swept up in this, either by trying to fix it all or by becoming complicit through silence. Jung's advice, stay aware but don't lose yourself. In The Undiscovered Self, he urged individuals to resist conforming to the crowd. For you, this might mean questioning societal pressures to always be nice or to avoid conflict. Stand firm in your values, even when it's unpopular. Your kindness is a gift, but it's most powerful when it's intentional, not automatic. Finally, Jung's ninth piece of advice, transform pain into wisdom. Kind souls often carry deep wounds, maybe from being taken for granted or from giving too much. Jung saw pain as a teacher. In Ion, he wrote, the greatest and most important problems of life are all fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. Your pain isn't a flaw, it's a path to growth. Reflect on a time when you felt betrayed or exhausted by your kindness. What did it teach you? Maybe it taught you to value yourself or to choose your battles. That's the alchemy of the psyche, turning suffering into strength. So, kind souls, here's the takeaway. Your light is beautiful, but your darkness is just as sacred. Carl Jung's dark advice isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more of who you are. Embrace your shadow, set boundaries, balance your light and dark, and transform your pain into wisdom. It's not easy, but it's worth it. You deserve to live a life that honors all of you. Not just the parts the world loves. If this resonated with you, leave a comment below and tell me what's one shadow you're ready to face. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more deep dives into the human psyche. Until next time, stay kind, but don't forget to be fierce. Inspired by Carl Jung. Keep exploring your psyche.